Welcome back for the final battle, and boy, is it going to be a good one. This is the newly translated text of Garland when you meet him again. I'll let you read that. It makes a little bit more sense than the NES translation, although it's a pretty silly premise. Things with time loops and time travel. But let's start talking about Chaos, this final battle here. He's got some nasty things, and now my equipment setup is a little bit like that in the Tiamat battle, where the top mage does not have the protections and does not have the critical equipment, but I am going to try to get the wall spell on that first position mage on this first turn. I'm also going to try to land Dispel on Chaos as soon as possible. Now, Chaos has a 50% chance to cast a spell first, which he did. Sadly, he cast it just before I got the wall spell, which gives me protection from every single element. Now, I had to get that out there because Chaos and their Dispel, you see the first one does hit and get the resistance off from Chaos. So he's now resistant to nothing, which is going to be very important. So he has a chance on his first turn to use a spell called Crack, or it's an ability called Crack. It's not a spell, it's an ability. So if he fails to use Ice 3 on that first one, he used Crack, which this is it. This is Earthquake here. It is Earth Elemental. It is instant death. It is really nasty. It's very accurate, and it can take out any character that doesn't have Earth resistance. So I wanted to get the wall spell up on that top character as quickly as I could, because it was possible that Chaos could have just used Crack on the first turn and killed that character before we cast wall spell. So that's why I did not put any vital equipment on that character. That was kind of set up as my sacrificial lamb. Now the Giant's Gauntlet is going to be upping the attack power of that mage, and I'm going to keep trying to land Silence. Now Chaos does have a very high magic defense of 200. So Bolt 3 here, Lit 3 is not doing much damage because we're all protected from every single element. That wall spell will last the rest of this battle, the rest of this game actually. But his huge magic defense of 200 means that Silence is going to hit with a roughly 6.5% chance to land. So Slow 2 did not do the job there. And Silence did finally land. Now, I wasted a couple of actions here having other characters cast Silence, but it was worth it. So it was a little bit better than 1 in 20, maybe with something like 1 in 18 chance to land Silence on Chaos. And that was my primary plan. Now, if that had failed past Chaos's Cure 4 ability, I probably would have just gone on the offensive. I would have just buffed up, continued to buff up, I should say, with the white shirt to protect from his physical attacks. I protected from all of his elemental stuff. It was some of his non-elemental ability damage things like Swirl and Tornado that will come a little bit later on that were really nasty. So had I run out of silences or not gotten to silence him before he hit Cure 4, which he will use to completely heal himself on his 4th spell in his progression. It goes Ice 3, Lit 3, Slow 2, Cure 4, but he actually has Cure 4 coming up next on his spell progression. But you can see the Masamune with a couple of Giant's Gauntlets is doing big damage. Now, that was a physical attack that inflicted stun, and as best I can figure, that hit through the Ribbon's protection. He has status attack paralyzed, but it is status element. So as far as I can figure, it landed on that 0.5% chance, which is very unlikely, but that's the best I can figure on that one. But thankfully, Cure 4, not only does it completely restore your hit points, it also restores your status. So whatever status you're in, it will remove. I'm not sure if that works for stone. I should look that up. But things like poison and things like stun, I believe it does get rid of in battle here. So at this point, with Chaos silenced, the only threat is his physical attack. Now let's talk about that physical attack. With max evasion, normally you can avoid Chaos hitting you because he has a huge accuracy of 200. So when that's added to the base attack to hit of 168, that gets you 368. If you max out your evasion at 255, he still has 113 as his 2 hits. So he will still land 56.7 roughly % of his physical attacks, even with max evasion. Now that's not something you can do in the NES version, because in the NES version, when they add their accuracy to the base attack, that gets capped at 255 before your evasion is subtracted out. But in this one, that can go higher than 255, and then your max evasion still can't remove all of that accuracy. So Chaos is still going to be landing physical attacks when he does hit them, and they can be pretty nasty. He has an attack of 100. Doesn't have a very high crit rate, so I'm just going to have to avoid getting 2 hits, say, for 200 damage each. is going to be the only thing that's going to be really threatening here in this one, is if he lands both hits and maxes out his damage on both. Now, the result of that Esper landing is that he doesn't resist any of these elemental spells. So he normally resists status, poison, time, death, fire, ice, lightning, earth. He normally resists all of those, but now I can actually do some damage with my elemental spells. And I actually realized partway through this battle that I made a slight equipment error in that mage's character in the 3rd position doesn't have a very good way to damage chaos offensively. I didn't bother to save enough money to buy Holy for everybody because I prioritized Wall and Esper or Dispel. So I didn't get Holy on everybody, but once we're out of Holy charges, my damage is going to be coming mostly from the Masamune down there at the bottom and some of the elemental attacks. That 3rd mage does not have an elemental attack item. She should have one in that spot, but I did not think to put that in there, mostly because I was so happy to land Silence. That Chaos is completely neutered with Silence landing. So now I can plink away and make the kill shot there, as you see with the Mage Staff doing its regular amount of damage. Chaos, by the way, does not work with Fear normally because Fear does not have enough base accuracy. I believe its base accuracy is 24. So when you add that to 148, you cannot actually overcome Chaos's 200 magic defense. So to land Fear, you have to use the task strats of trying to get that 0.5% shot on Fear. But Silence has a 64 accuracy, so that can get over 200. I think that gets to 212, and that's where we get our 6%. Because you can get to 212, subtract the 200 from that, that leaves you with 13 out of 201. And that's where we get our roughly 6.5% chance to land Silence on Chaos there. So a solid plan takes down Chaos, and a really solid class is the White Mage, especially with the White Wizard, with the ability to use those top-level spells is really important. And I know this is not a 4 White Mages challenge, which is kind of one of the big holy grails in variant runs of Final Fantasy, although it's certainly doable. Lots of players have done it. I wanted to showcase the abilities of the fixed spells like Esper. I found that in the early game, these White Mages were a little bit handicapped by the bug fixes. But in the late game, it more than made up for it by being able to use Esper to have some fun there, especially with Chaos. I did not have to depend on a lot of luck for Chaos, because I could use Esper, get Silence to land on him. Also, I could use the Giant's Gauntlet to power up the Masamune-wielding White Wizard. Normally, those spells are bugged and would not work, so I'd have to get my level up really high to get those extra hits on Chaos there. So I was happy to use the White Wizards and enjoyed the end of this run. It was a little bit easier than I thought, especially once we got the airship and got our class changed. Once we got to that point, these White Wizards really, really picked up a lot of power. And I'm interested to do some more variant runs with this restored version because it is fun to play with things as they were more or less designed to do or should have been designed to do in this game. So let me start by shouting out to the author of this hack, Astral Esper, the other folks that she has credited in it, Zonk Miles and X__ Loto and Grand and many others who contributed to this hack, other hacks of this game. Do go to the GameFAQs forums and check out the work that those good folks are doing on the writing FAQs for this game, fixing bugs for this game, analyzing the mechanics of this game and other fun old RPGs. I would recommend getting into that community. It's kind of a niche area of gaming, but it is a very fun one, and there's a lot of very cool people doing very good work. So do subscribe to the channel here, look for more RPG variant run videos to come, and enjoy Final Fantasy I in any flavor you'd like. Restored, ZZ, Vanilla, Bronze, and maybe even the remakes too. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.